At CES 2017, BMW and Lyft launched self-driving cars drive along Loica strips and bring passengers. Now, this as Lyft and more companies such as Uber and AAA use self-driving cars as their testing vehicles to test water with this, more and more people are concerned with self-driving cars. And today, my claim is that self-driving cars will have significant advantage over driver control cars. And my reason is that first, humans as themselves are dangerous drivers, and self-driving cars can improve traffic. And my last point is that self-driving cars are beneficial for public transportation. I'd like to begin with my first point. Human drivers have inescapable problems and are inherently dangerous. I want to start by saying that I myself am not against driving, and I do own 2 sports cars that stick shift, so I'm by no means against driving. I don't like the idea of driving. I do go to track days or not, so by all means I love driving, but it's inescapable to see the problems in human driving operating vehicles. According to Los Angeles government official data, in 2016, there's 260 fatal accidents and 555,000 accidents occur in the road that cause injuries. So that's only 2016 in LA County alone. Now in comparison, Tesla's Autopilot only had 1 accident in 2016, which caused a fatal injury, but it was all over the news. However, in comparison, human caused accidents are too many to report. And if that would be on the news, we see that every day, and that's only item we can see. Also, human drivers are often influenced by substances such as alcohol, drugs, or even medications. 11% of injuries are caused by intoxicated drivers, and 38% of fatal injuries are caused by drivers that are under influence of substance. Human drivers are oftentimes emotional. For example, how many people have been flipped off, cut off, or brake checked on the road? So it's pretty obvious that people may or may not be able to control their emotions well and could use driving as their way to dump their emotions out on the road, and that could be very dangerous to other people on the road. And it's not we're not possible to prevent it because humans have emotions, and although it's illegal to reckless driving or cut people off or brake check, it's simply impossible to prevent that in general. Humans vary in skill level. So for instance, when we just pass the driving test, we might not be able to operate the vehicle very well. We could back in the trash cans, we could departure lanes when it's not right. Or we could do things that we just don't know, such as getting off the wrong exit and we panic. However, in a robotic operating condition, every self-driving car understands the road as well as the others, as long as they have the map updated and connected online. Also, communications are very limited between drivers. All we have is the brake light, the blinkers, and the headlight that we can use to blink at others. So that's only 3 languages that you can transport us besides your middle finger, really. But as comparison to self-driving cars, we can transport any data such as the destination of other drivers, how hurried they are in, and data like that. Self-driving cars can transmit infinitely more signals in comparison. So secondly, I'll talk about self-driving cars can improve traffic. Now, how many people have been in a traffic jam in LA? I assume everyone. So according to a study by Dexter University, they built a mathematical dynamic model, and there's more scholars that have done research on this, and the result is that traffic jam is solely caused by human reasons. For example, when you're at a green light, when the light turns green and you will only go until the driver in front of you release their brakes, right? And that's besides the concerns that they might drive a manual car and they can stall their cars and cause the whole red light to start jamming. And there's reaction time between each vehicle, and that causes delay, and that's what essentially causes traffic jam no matter on the highway or at green lights. But self-driving cars can communicate with themselves instantly, and we not have this delay issue, so that can entirely eliminate traffic jam. And that can be supported by my next point. Is that according to a study by University of Illinois, by the engineering department, in an experiment with only 100 vehicles, of which 5 are self-driving and the rest are controlled by normal human drivers, the fuel efficiency on all the vehicles improved by 40% due to the fact that the self-driving vehicles help with the traffic flow. Also, because self-driving cars can know the destination beforehand and can know the destination of all the vehicles on the road, For instance, if 10 cars out of 300 on this particular 1 mile stretch on the road, they could depart all the cars that are getting off the exit early instead of having people to change lanes so that they can get there quicker or whatnot and optimize the traffic flow. And my third and final point is that self-driving cars is beneficial for public transportation. How many people think Uber or Lyft would be too expensive to use on a regular basis, or even just for going out, for going to clubs, raves, or drinking? Now we can see as college students, we don't have much money, but even in work conditions such as myself when I was interning, I know a lot of people hesitate to use Lyft and Uber because it costs too much. According to studies, it costs about 3 times more than you driving and maintaining your own car. And by having self-driving cars, we can reduce the cost by as much as 80% due to the lack of insurance needed for human drivers and lower maintenance of vehicles. Now GM has invested $500 million in Lyft to develop self-driving cars to do taxis and Lyft services. There's a huge potential in self-driving cars. Now there's still reason for people to drive cars, but I do think that just for transportation alone, human drivers are less safe than robotics, and definitely we could take advantage by having self-driving cars. Thank you.
All right, a couple of things that are pretty solid. The propositions clearly identified at the beginning of the speech. You do have a preview, but you kind of rush through it, so you could pace yourself a little bit more on that. Internally, the signposts are clear, so it's easy to follow your argument. You label each point as you get to it. That's pretty solid. There's a lot of assertions and explanations on a number of points, some of which have some information, some of which don't. And the data, for instance, on the first point that talks about all the accidents that people have, and then you've got some hypotheticals, and then you mentioned statistical information about alcohol and drugs and that sort of thing. That's mostly factual data. It wouldn't hurt you to give a source citation on it. You gave a source citation for one piece, but the others, it's generally just backup information, and you're not citing it more particularly. Here's the thing that I'm missing, though. I'm missing on all of the points the evidence that says that the self-driving cars work. There's a lot of theory. There are models that are talking about this, but we're at a very kind of speculative point in this process. There's no, if you're talking about long term, 50 years, 100 years, there may be a lot of acceptance of that, especially if you replace all the existing cars with the cars that communicate with each other. But I have no information about how long that would take. I have no information about how efficient the cars would be if it's only partial use of these kind of autonomous cars. If we had a third of the cars on the road were autonomous cars, would we still get these benefits, or do we have to have 100% on that? I don't know. It seems to me a little bit speculative, and the idea here is you've kind of visualized an ideal world where everybody has these things and it would fix all those problems. The problem is I could say, well, if we didn't have to work, we wouldn't have accidents either. So let's all stop working. That doesn't work. That doesn't function. So you got to show us that the thing that you're saying is going to be a solution will in fact be that solution. And there's evidence that says they're coming, they're getting better all the time. Within 10, 15 years, these will be standard equipment. There's information out there about these kinds of things. It's just missing from your speech. You're kind of, you basically tell us why human beings are problematic, and I don't think anybody disagrees with that. We all know that people make mistakes. They're not always careful. Lots of things could happen. However, I've been on my computer when things happen that weren't good. Suddenly you want me to be in the car, in the computer, when things are not going well at whatever it is, 70 miles an hour, and I'm going, right. Do we know that this is okay, that it's safe, that it's going to function the way it's supposed to, that you only have a minor number? I don't know what the projection on the number of accidents would be. So there just needs to be a little bit more follow-through, I think, on those kinds of things. All right.